Welcome back to Tech Talks. I'm your host, Jack Brandwood, and this is the podcast where I speak to some of the brightest and most influential people in the tech industry in the UK. This week, I sit down with CEO over at YQ, Patience Tucker. Our conversation ranges from how you find the right VC to how you secure a mentor and even balancing being a parent and a founder.
Make sure you pick the right funder because you're going to be speaking to them all the time, and if you don't get with them or if they don't understand your vision of where you want to go with as a company, that's when challenges happen.
For more information on this episode and Tact Talks, head over to tact-it.co.uk. Thanks so much for listening and enjoy the episode. Patience, thank you for coming on the podcast.
Thank you for having me.
We just realised that we're very close neighbours.
We are please don't break out in the song. I definitely can't sing that song.
Nobody needs to hear that.
Nobody needs to hear that.
But yeah, how long have you been in that office now?
Since October, so only coming up to a year actually.
Okay.
So it's surprised we haven't bumped into each other.
I know. But yeah, look, I start these things with a bit of a deep, vague question. Who is Patience Tucker?
That is a good question. So I guess officially I am CEO of YQ Technologies, and we've been going around we're our 9th year in terms of our solution, what we provide to the hospitality industry. Unofficially, I'm a mother of two young boys, 3 and 5. And I guess somebody would say I'm a mumpreneur, I guess, for what's coming on. But essentially, I guess I'm an entrepreneur who wants to leave a legacy behind. I know many people say that, but I truly believe that what we started 9 years ago was that. We were right at the cusp of our industry in terms of technology. Our solution's very new within the market. No one really knew about it. And we're seen as a luxury product. So I think over the last 9 years, I like to think that we've helped shape the hospitality industry somehow with our tech. And I know there's lots of new players in the market, but I like to think that we were one of the first out there to bring something new to the market.
Love that. Well, and I can't wait to get into it. But I know that, I don't know, as you know, our vision at Tact is that we want to create a world where everyone gets their dream job.
Yep. Along
that thread, you didn't always want to be a CEO at YQ Technologies, I assume. I'm going to ask you to draw something for me. And I did show you some of the pictures before, so you know what you're up against.
Okay.
But there you go. Are you good at drawing?
I am rubbish at drawing, although my kids might think I'm excellent at drawing. So, okay.
You can stick persons always good. Safe bet.
Gosh, my drawings, I should have been in a different job. I should absolutely been a different job. I think my kids could. If you don't get it, my kids would definitely get this.
Is that television?
Yes.
It is television. Okay. Yeah. So I'll show it to everybody. So that's what Patience wanted to be when she was younger. What is it?
A TV presenter.
Oh, a TV presenter.
How did you not get...
Well, I thought that was a lollipop. I thought you were watching the telly. No. A TV watcher.
That's a speech bubble and a microphone.
So why a TV presenter?
Oh, I don't know. I remember saying first of all, studying wasn't my thing. And when I was younger, I was part of this new group at that age of an alternative learning where it's all about hands-on business, going into businesses and actually getting that on-site experience. So I loved that more. I felt like I learned more that way than I ever did, I guess, from an academic perspective. I remember coming back to mum and dad saying, I don't want to do a 9-to-5 job. I want a job that will give me the flexibility to be able to travel, to be able to do what I wanted to do. And I figured TV presenting was probably one of the ones that would allow me to do that. So I remember doing a couple of show reels for CBBC's and Blue Peter for my sins.
Brilliant.
I think I got a bit further on at MTV many years ago. And then I think I promptly decided that was probably not for me, and actually just, I know the world of business was more attracted to me. So I didn't really pursue it. But it's something I wanted to do. So, yeah, I think definitely didn't want to have a 9-to-5 job. I certainly don't have a 9-to-5 job. I think anybody in my position would tell you that it's a 24-hour constant. Even when you sleep, you're still thinking about, your day-to-day, what happened the day before, what happened, what's going to happen tomorrow, what's going to happen the week after, the month after, the year after. So it's all consuming. And I think this is where maybe sometimes, new players in the market in terms of CEOs, founders come in, doesn't always realize that it is truly not a 9 to 5 job.
Absolutely, I couldn't agree more. And your business has been going a lot longer than ours, and a bit much bigger than ours. But it's been the most stressful 2 years, but the most rewarding 2 years of my life owning this business.
Yeah.
Any tips
Anything.
to maybe switch off if you need to?
Oh my goodness, I can't give you a tip that
No.
I can't switch off. I mean, the only time I've probably switched off in the last few days or weeks and months is probably when I've spent some time with my kids off grid glamping. So that was by force, by nature. That wasn't on purpose. So obviously that's helped. But I think one of the biggest tips that I was told was to fail fast. So fail fast, pick it up, dust yourself off, and then move on to what you need to do. So I think, as CEOs or entrepreneurs or founders, you're probably your most real critical of yourself, and I think sometimes it's really unfair, and you don't always celebrate the wins. And I think that when you're in this position, you have to celebrate the wins as much as you can do, but also you've got to understand that if you're the only one who can really change something. So if change comes from the top, and if you have the right people that surrounds you, then that change will be far easier to do.
Okay, I like that. Thank you. And before you became an entrepreneur, you got 2 kids of your own, obviously. What was patience like as a kid?
Oh my goodness. So I was probably too loud for my own good. I remember a couple of my reports, my parents told me a couple of my reports that she would be a leader. So I guess maybe that's come true. But I think one of the ones would probably be she talks too much.
Okay.
I think it was. If she could just not talk too much, she would excel, probably. But as a kid, I think I was very sporty. Track was my thing. Played netball and ran for North Yorkshire under 16s. So so I was very much active, very much, involved and being, active in terms of helping out as well from that age. And as a kid, I just loved being outdoors. I loved, and also loved, getting to know people. But like I say, wasn't very academic. So I wouldn't say I was a very studious kid, but certainly the world outside is what I was interested in.
Amazing. And then what was the trajectory to now?
Yeah, so I think it was, well, I became actually one of the youngest account managers for a big FTSE 250 company many years ago. And I did a deal that was pretty big. I think it was about 44 million over 3 years. And so I happened to very fortuitously got a mentor at that time. So my mentor is he's still my mentor now. He was ex-CEO of the company that I was at. He just said, so he started talking to me about financials, commercials, your numbers, how does that work, what the world of business looks like. And I just learned so much from him that I just loved the buzz of where I needed to be. So getting into YQ was a natural thing, met with one of the other co-founders. The idea was just an idea at that point. And my role was to take the idea into some sort of product strategy, marketing, sales. How do we commercialize it? Which markets do we go to? Who do we need to approach for that? How are we going to make the market listen? Is there even a product or even an industry that this product would take? So it was very much, a one-man band or three-man band in this case, from that perspective. And, it took a lot of years to convince the industry that this is a solution that was, that was part of their tech stack, and it was never going to be, an either or. And I think everybody knows that, and I keep referring to it, I probably shouldn't now because COVID was 3 years ago, but accelerated that growth or that adoption. And the concept, the fact that you can use your own device to do something other than, watch a movie or, write messages or have phone calls, that you could do more with it. And the subject of online payments, e-wallets, because all of that started to explode, it just made our world so much easier from what we needed to be. So I think, the transition from this is an idea, what is it even going to fly, what we're going to call it, what's going to look like, what shape or form, which territories, all the way. That was something which was, I know, was part of all the way up until now. So being CEO for me was the next evolution to it, really. I think I just wanted more than just a title of the original founders. I wanted to demonstrate to the market and to demonstrate to the peers that actually what we have now in terms of the industry and the business that we're going for, it's worth something and more than just the idea that's come over the last few years. So the lead up to now has not been easy. It's been fraught with many bootstrap times. It has been bootstrapped many, many years until last year, which we decided to go for VC funding to try and accelerate the growth that we knew that was out there, that we knew the pocket of opportunities that had come on board. So, when you bootstrap, I think every founder has to bootstrap. I think if you don't bootstrap, you're not going to know how to manage your money carefully from that perspective. But also, I think there comes a time when every founder has to go, actually, in order to really get the most out of this business, it needs that injection of cash or that another voice that can say, are you doing this the right way? Actually, what about this? And that is something which I think, having VC fund has given us, but you have to pick the right funder. That is what I would say. If there's an advice that's given is make sure you pick the right funder, because you're going to be speaking to them all the time. And if you don't get with them, or if they don't understand your vision of where you want to go with as a company, that's when challenges happen.
Wyke, you mentioned, has been around for 9 years, right? You only just recently decided to go for VC funding, which is incredible, and congratulations, by the way.
Thank you.
What's the advantage of going a little bit later, do you think, in the existence of the business then? Because usually what you find is that people get VC funding like a year in or 2 years in or 3 years in, whatever. Why did you wait so long? And then I guess, what's the advantage of that?
Yeah, look, I think it's a great question. I think potentially if we had known that COVID was going to happen, we would have probably tried to go for VC funding quicker because we could capitalize on it a lot quicker. And I think when it did happen, we realized the opportunity to try and go funding. But at that time, as you know, funding wasn't, everybody was a bit cautious about cash, across all the industry sets. So we didn't do that. I think for us going later was two things. First of all, the desire to try and keep as much of the equity as possible.
Sure.
That's what most people want to do. And secondly, we wanted to prove it. We wanted to prove that this wasn't just an idea or this wasn't just a luxury product. We wanted to prove that the adoption was there. And the hospitality industry is not known for very quick innovation. Innovation that when it happens within the hospitality industry, once it gets there, it stays. But to turn the oil tanker, that is the hospitality industry, to look at something different, it does take time. And also there's desperate systems out there, desperate systems within the hospitality industry. That means it's not easy to get all your tech stack to work in the way it needs to work. And we needed to get to that point so that we had a scalable solution that would allow us to go out within the marketplace. So there's pros and cons. I think had we gone out earlier, we probably would have got our tech stack probably there a lot quicker. I have no doubt around that. But I also think that we would have probably spent almost a similar amount of time trying to convince the industry that this is what they needed to get. So we kind of did it backwards from that perspective. So I don't think there's any right or wrong about when you go for funding. I think that as founders, you have to understand that if you need cash and you're not going to put it in, and then you have to be prepared to let go of some equity, because the downside of that is you have nothing.
That cash injection, what's that? What were the activities that you then performed after getting that cash injection that's allowed you to scale and increase adoption?
Yeah, so the cash that was there was for us to capitalize on current contracts that we do have, because we work with mainly blue chip enterprise customers, and so that was for us to structure their accounts, structure them so that we have enough people to support those accounts moving forward. It also allowed us to look out into territories that we knew we were strong in, but we didn't quite have proper foothold within that. So it allowed us to really try to expand within those. And as you know, it's what the other cash is for, was designed for growth, and look at how we can actually further increase our footprint within the vertical markets that we've chosen for ourselves. So the cash was trying to do a lot of things, and it is trying to do a lot of things as well. But first and foremost is to make sure the company was well funded in order to take it to the next stage.
And how did you choose your partner?
We had a lot of meetings. As CEO or founder of any company, I think that there's only a level of expertise that you do get. I think there's some expertise that you can't afford. You just won't ever be able to afford until you're at a different stage within the cycle of the company. So I think, picking, we had a couple of offers. We probably had, I think, 3 or 4 offers that we had. And we chose Batura for a reason, and that was what the logo say, which is more than money, right? For us, it was about who could add value. And I'm telling you now, over the last few months, that's exactly what's happened. Because when you get into tricky times or whatever, you need VCs that are going to go, okay, we're behind you in this. You have our support in this. What can we do to try and help you? As opposed to numbers. You're not performing, therefore we're not there to support you. So I think you have to be really, really careful about that. And I know everybody says it. Everybody goes, yeah, you need to have, somebody that can be on your board, can do this. And VCs sometimes tend to have people on the board that really don't understand your industry. They're giving you a load of money, but they don't understand your industry. You need somebody that's going to take the time to understand your industry so they can give you the best advice in order to take your business next forward. Because all you end up doing is re-educating them about your business, re-educating about your business, which just takes its toll. And you don't want to get to that point. So I think, having somebody who gets you, gets where you're coming from, gets where you want to be, it's so, so important.
Yeah, and how do you drag that out of a meeting? Because I've had similar conversations with people in your position where they have like literally 10, 15, 20, 30 meetings with people, all these VC companies, and it's the same thing over and over again. And like you said, it seems quite disingenuous sometimes. I think the interest in your business.
Yeah.
How do you drag that out of somebody in a VC meeting?
Yeah, very hard. Yeah. And sometimes you may never be able to do. I guess it's the same way when VCs go, well, we thought that you would be the person that we were backing actually, and you've just told us a good story, right, from that perspective. And so I think there has to be a level of, gut feel about the trust that you get there. But just as they're asking you questions, you need to ask them the same questions, right? So what would you do in this instance? What would you do in that instance? And actually, if you look at the negotiation stage or the term sheet stage, because I think one of the things you have to do is spend time on that initial term sheet, because once you spend time on it, the rest is legalities, really, because that term sheet is what defines what you think is going to get out of the relationship. It's a bit like dating, it is literally like, it's like you go out for dinner, okay, you've had a nice meal and everything else, and you want to go on a second date. Well, actually, do they tick the right boxes for you to go on a second date, or was the first date like just matched on whatever, and that's what it looks like? And so I think VC is exactly the same thing, because you have to ask them the same questions. So if I got into trouble, what would you do? Like, what kind of expertise would you give me? Who's on your board? What access do I get level 2? What mentorship do I get level 2? Because we're all constantly involved. What's your exit strategy? Are you putting money in this for us just to exit in a year, 2 years, 3 years? And what is your expectation of me, of the business, of the senior leadership team? Because if you don't ask those questions, then it's like saying you go on your second date, you go, I want kids, and somebody goes, no, I don't want kids. You go, all right, kid, game over. If it's that deal breaker to you, then you've got to prepare to walk away from it, because you've got to have your ceiling point, but also you've got to prepare to compromise, and it depends how they compromise with you on that bit as well. So no term sheet's perfect from day one, but I think you've got to, if something doesn't sit well with you, you've got to talk it out and get their views of where they're coming from, as opposed to it's my way or the highway, because that's how it is. You just know that there's no movement, especially when you get into tricky situations.
Funding has been up, as everybody knows. It's the lowest it's ever been since, I think it's like 2020. Q1 23 was the lowest it's been since 2020. Why do you think that is? Do you think is it just the fact that we're coming out of COVID and the other end of it, or is there a deeper meaning?
I think it's just the market, and I think it's the inertia of it. I think you've got businesses out there who have had these high growth plans. You've got businesses who resurged after COVID, who could potentially be buying certain products that aren't, because they're probably thinking, okay, I need to be a bit, more wise with my cash in terms of buying products and solutions within the marketplace. And, I just think that, some markets it hasn't dropped, because some markets it's all about risk. It's all about, let's go for it. We know typically the US, pays higher or multiples than what the UK market do and what the Middle East market does. But I think it comes down to inertia at the end of the day, and it comes down to being cautious. And I think, there's VCs out there that are protecting their own. So if the funds that come in and they've got businesses there, then they protect their own to get them to a certain stage before obviously they go out there. And I think, unfortunately, it's a tough market. The economy is not lending itself well for other parties. So you've got to, as founders, you've got to go, well, okay, is a down round something which I should be considering to keep the business going until I can get to that point? The multiples will increase. Of course they will. It's just the way business goes. But I think in this tough period, I think there's some real questions that needs to be asked in terms of what can I take? And if I'm in trouble, what do I need? And VCs from the other side, do we support? Because there's cash out there. Absolutely. It's just, who do you spend it on?
Yeah, we had Dave Fulton from Procure on on the podcast, and it was a really long one. And he, as you know, no doubt, he's so passionate about that. He obviously had his Protura hoodie on, classic,
Standard.
standard. But a big thing was, big thing what he does. He makes people's, it sounds cheesy, but dreams come true, or dreams are reality in a way. To any founders that are listening to the podcast, if they have an idea similar to you when you had an idea, what advice would you give them? What are the next steps?
Gosh, I mean, for us, I think we were completely bootstrapped. I think before you go into any funding round, I think you have to get your product and your execution right. Because I think that is so key to trying to get fundraising and try to prove it if you can before you get to that point, because then you'll end up protecting some of your assets. But the main one for me is, please don't be greedy right at the beginning. I know most founders want to keep 100% of their shares, but 100% of nothing is nothing. And so I think, if you're just starting that journey and you need to get some sort of funding, you have to be prepared to, give up some equity. But also I think you have to be prepared that actually, or think about the equity that you do give up. What do you get for that? Not just cash, but do you get the expertise that can really accelerate the growth, the strategy moving forward? Because that is so, so key. If you don't have a well-defined strategy and focus, because in the later years, all it does, you're losing where you're going and you'll end up behind the curve.
You mentioned there, like expertise, mentorship, which you know something you're super passionate about. How do you find the right mentor? How do you get one?
Hard work. Mentors didn't have to come in the form of somebody in the industry at all whatsoever. I have 4 mentors, and I'm not afraid to add more, but they all give me slightly different things I need. I don't, it's not always about business. And actually, I'm looking for a life coach, because actually you have to have that balance of work, life to recharge, to be able to go into, business with a fresh, clear mind, and from that perspective. So it's not an easy answer. And I think you don't go for somebody who's like, yeah, I can do this, I can get you to this point. That's not what it is. Half the battle of having a mentor is for somebody listening to you and go, okay, well, this is what I've heard. Is this correct? Yes or no? Okay, well, in this instance, I would do this, I would do that. It doesn't mean you have to take their advice for it. And, it could just be as a friend, it could be a friend that you go, okay, I'm struggling with this piece. What do you think? And so there's only one mentor that I have that's connected to me in the industry. The rest aren't connected to me in the industry at all. So it's about, I have one that we talk around actual tech, and, not tech in my industry, just progressive tech, and my thoughts on what I think tech could be in the future. And he's a geek. And it turns me into a geek when we have those conversations, and we both geek out. But it's brilliant because I go, okay, now I get it now, and I get where this could be if you did X, Y, Z. So it's not just, hey, let's make you more money. It's about everything from what we call this, what we do our branding. Oh, I'm thinking of this color for it. What does that mean in that language? It's so different what mentorship means to anybody. So I wouldn't say just have one and that's it. I have 4, and I'll probably add a couple more over the coming years, because I want different advice of people to listen to at different points and stages of my career.
Great piece of advice. And I assume, are you getting people approach you to be a mentor?
Yeah.
Mentees? If that's the right word, who knows?
Listening in, yeah.
It is now.
Yeah. I'll take that one.
yeah, and understandably, right? Because you've risen through the ranks, and you've got an incredible story, and you're doing fantastically well. How do you find the right mentee? How do you know you're not wasting your time with a mentee?
Yeah. Again, it's a great story. So far, I haven't said yes to anybody yet.
Oh wow. Okay.
I have had a few conversations, but I haven't said yes to anybody yet. And that's purely because I want to give the best of myself to somebody. And I think that, I've had many, many conversations with people looking for mentors, people for me to sit, and advise them, and just to help listen. And I've had, if anybody's listening on this when I've done it, I'm quite happy giving my time, quite have given some tips on, term sheets, whatever it is, quite happy to do that. But I think to be a mentor, you have to be committed, because this isn't just hey, let's have a call every Monday at 9 a.m. and let's just do this. It's not that, it could be a WhatsApp text, at like 10 o'clock at night. So what do you think of this? And I think you've got to be prepared to go, actually, I think this, and I'm not saying respond straight away, but you have to be prepared for that intrusiveness that will come with being a mentor, because there's people that you're mentoring, their day jobs don't finish at 5 o'clock. Probably at 6 o'clock the day jobs are just starting, and so that's probably the time that they have to really think about what help they might need. And I think you've got to prepare to commit to that, and I can't commit to that right this moment in time. So the minute that I can commit to that, then I will definitely have conversations, and it has to be somebody who fits into my passion. It doesn't have to be tech, in terms of where they are. I think it's about where the journey that people want to go and what they want to achieve from that.
And leave a legacy behind, like you were
Absolutely.
talking about. Yeah, I just find it such an interesting thing, because everyone talks about how do you go and find a mentor, for instance, but like you said, it can be a massive waste of time, really, if you get the wrong person, right? And that's a really good piece of advice there. Understand that it's going to be incredibly intrusive, and you need to be really bought into this person if you're going to allow that into your life.
Yeah.
Another great piece of advice someone gave, and it might have been on the podcast, but they were talking about something they do is they'll give them homework and say, and then see how enthusiastic they are about coming back to you with it. Like, what do you want me to do next?
Yeah.
Because if someone's not coming back to you and they're like, I can't be bothered.
Yeah.
That's not the kind of person you want to spend your time with, right?
You don't want to do that. And it's, I think time is so important, especially when you're starting up. Somebody to just say to you, okay, if you're going to go for fundraising, what does your deck look like? What does this look like? What are you going to do? How are you going to do this? What does your financials look like? And I think it's such a big thing. If you want somebody to help you with that you have to be, as the mentee, you're going to have to be prepared to put that time in as well. And so it is hard work. And I think also, you don't want to be teaching a founder how to suck eggs, because they're going to go, yeah, I get that. But you have to understand what they need from you, because it might just be for a short period of time. They just need you to get over this hurdle for that perspective. And that's where you need to get to. And I think you have to want to mentor somebody, because, it is hard work.
On the time bit as well, I mean, momtrepreneur, I love that phrase. Fantastic. But how do you balance being a parent and a founder?
Very, very hard. Very hard. If it wasn't for my WhatsApp group that I have with the other school mums and nursery mums, I would not know what would be happening in the schools and in the nursery. Right. Kid you not. So I get told what happens and it goes. And, it's probably the wrong way of doing it, but that's the way that works for me, so I know what's going on. But I mean, that's a jokey bit. But on a serious note, it is hard work, and you do have to balance that out. On a serious note, it is I don't get it right, and I haven't got it right, and I probably won't get it right for a long time to come. And so I think, the old saying is, if you want something done properly, get mum to do it. How true that is, a lot of people do say it, but I do believe that I think the ability to multitask, the ability to say to yourself, okay, for this period of time, and that's what I do sometimes, from the hours between 5 and 8, for example, I try not to do any work, because that's my time. If I'm around, if I'm not traveling, that's my time to pick the kids up from school, do dinner, bath, bedtime, and then I've got, a couple more hours to catch up on an evening. That is what I do, from that perspective. So that works for me. It may not work for other people from that piece, but I think that gives me the balance that I do need. And my weekends, are to my own, for want of a better word. So I think I don't think I've got it right. I try to be there for sports day or all of that lovely stuff. I try to be there, and I haven't made a couple of them. And I probably won't make a couple of them coming down, because I'll be traveling somewhere like I was for the last sports day. But I think it's really important, those key milestones that, they're ingrained in me. And I have a very good EA who reminds me, like, no, you can't do this, because that's that day for them. And so that truly helps, from that perspective.
Truly, because again, I haven't got any kids, and but I speak to a lot of founders on this podcast who are similar. They're still trying to get it right, even though they might have been a founder for a long period of time or a short period of time. And they always say at the beginning, they get it completely wrong, and you get that element of guilt, and you feel like you're missing out on stuff. And has that ever crept in at the beginning?
100%. Mum guilt. I mean, mum. Everybody says mum guilt is real. Dad guilt, mum guilt, parent guilt is real. I missed the first day of my child's school. The first day of school, my husband took him to school, and I missed that. It's complete mum guilt. It didn't mean that he had a bad day at school. He had a great day, in fact. But I was halfway across the world when that happened, and I had no choice to do that. And so for me, he won't ever remember that, but I will, because he won't remember it, but I will remember it. And I think you have to realize that what you're doing is for you to, like I said, to leave something behind and to create a better future for them. So I think it's very, very real. I think sometimes, you just have to potentially have a cry, dust yourself off, move on, or have a glass of wine and say, okay, that's happened, and let's move on to the next piece, because I don't, you're not going to get away with it, because it will happen.
We kind of drift off from YQ there, but you mentioned
that's why I'm here.
So YQ again sounds like an incredible business, and for anybody listening who doesn't know what you do, what is YQ as a product?
Yeah, so what we do is we provide digital solutions for the hospitality industry, mainly hotels and restaurants. We essentially form part of a hospitality tech stack. So I'll give you an example. Before COVID, or during COVID, if you wanted to order food and drinks through your own device, we were the software that sat behind scan a QR code, tap an NFC. We would take all the menu items from a point of sale within a property. We would configure the menus, make sure it looks pretty, images, everything's linked through to the payment gateway that's needed. We would take the order through the platform, and then we put it directly into the point of sale. So there's no human interaction needed. And essentially what we've created is a digital employee that is enabled on any device, anywhere in the world, as long as that device is connected to the internet. So, YQ is designed, YQ, why would you queue for something when you have the ability to do it yourself? And I think as the solutions, the tech solutions evolved, we've added the bits of element where it creates inefficiencies. So we've got integration to likes of Deliveroo, Uber Eats, Talabat in the Middle East, where we take their orders through their platform and we put it directly into the point of sale. So we negate the need for multiple tablets in the back office, in the kitchen, in an area. So if an order comes through to Deliveroo, if you don't have integration, you have to take that order from a tablet, put it into the point of sale. And if you miss that, for whatever reason, and driver comes up, you're like, oh God, I've missed the order. But this way, through our platform, you don't need any of that. It comes straight to delivery partners through YQ directly into the point of sale, and we feed it back to the delivery partner and say that order has been accepted. Go ahead and send your delivery drivers to it. So we now optimize efficiencies. We create the revenues from that perspective, and all of this is designed with the one integration through our platform. So as an operator, as a restaurant or hotelier, you don't have to have different disparate systems talking to each other to create the end output. You just do it through us.
Wow, I did not. No way. I'm like in shock because a lot of my money has passed through your platform,
and you wouldn't probably not have known it.
No, I didn't. Yeah, which is incredible. So at what point did you realize? Did you think, okay, well, COVID's happening. I think this is going to happen now. This is the chain effect that it's going to cause when everything opens back up, or was it a case that you just started getting more and more inquiries and you're thinking, why, what the hell is going on here?
We always knew this type of product or solution was going to work. I mean, I've been in, when I was younger, I was waitressing. I've been in hospitality for many, many years. And I think that, like I said earlier on, it's difficult to change the mindset because hospitality has always been somebody coming to you to serve you and so on and so forth. And I think what happened is that some of the bigger chains got where we're coming from, but the smaller chains were still like no. But it was the smaller chains that needed to change the mindset of adoption for that to happen. And so we got in our first big brand before COVID hit, because they got it and they got the need for that and the operation efficiency. So what you now have is that for us, we knew we were always onto something. We were just, I think, a bit surprised by how the market wouldn't do it, and also us as people that we were the most expensive real estate is your device that you carry on your persons every single day. You have everything on it, from that perspective. We were like, why would you then not have it to order if you were starting to order it online shopping on it? So why would you not do food and drinks? And I think with the explosion of COVID and Deliveroo and all the home delivery platforms, that was the first wave of it. I think the second wave then came with everybody being furloughed in the hospitality, everything shut. You couldn't sit inside. Takeaways becoming more popular. And then people just thought, you know what? I'm working 18 hours a day for minimum wage. Why would I want to do that? I want to retrain, do something else that's completely different from it. people that have been in the industry a long, long time taking this opportunity to retire, to do what they need to do or from themselves. And so what you then had is a real staff shortages within the entire hospitality industry. You've still got there. It's going to take years for the industry to recover. So those people then, or the operators, has to replace that with tech. And you can't replace that with more people because you can't find more people to work. And so the whole point of our solution was always to be to add alongside your current tech stack to give you that flexibility. So if a guest didn't want to use their device, they could do a waiting staff. But if they did, it gave you the operational efficiency that it needed from that perspective. So, you know, we always knew this was coming, and the fact that other people cutting on during COVID just goes to show that we had the right idea, we had the right solution, we had the right execution. And then the explosion of that, you know, I think some people thought, God, this is great, let's make it a load of money. But actually, the intricacies, you're replacing somebody's tech stack, a human being in some instances. So your tech has to behave the way in which a human being would behave. So if you can put an order in a till, it has to have those. It's no good saying, oh, I'll just do your order on a screen and you do it, because you're not alleviating the problem for them. You're just exasperating it. And so a lot of companies went bust because they thought they'd see a quick buck. But I think the first 5-6 years of our life cycle has been about understanding what is the pain point within the hospitality industries. How can our tech help that as opposed to hinder that? And I think we got to that point. So when COVID hit, it was okay, how do we scale now? And that was the catalyst for us to get VC funding when we came out the other end of it, because we knew that in order to scale properly with what we had, we needed proper funding.
I'm so, it's so exciting. It's just amazing. Like, because again, you've been around for a long time, and then all of a sudden this crazy thing happens that no one expected, and it's just put a rocket up the bum of YQ, basically.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah, and then you got this funding. So next 12 to 18 months, what's the plan, and what can we keep an eye out for?
Oh gosh, more growth, more expansion. So we are very strong in the Middle East. So we've got an office in Dubai. We've had it just over a year now, and so big expansions there from that perspective. We are looking at the US. We have big contracts which extends to the US as well. So we need to look at how we do that. But as you know, US is very costly to do. And if you don't do it right, we'll just spend a lot of money doing the US from that perspective. And I think more of what we keep doing, you know, there'll be innovations in there. I've got a few innovations up my sleeve for it, and I'm dying to let people know that, but I won't do that yet because it's not quite ready in the market, and I don't want somebody with more money than me then goes ahead and builds it. So I'll keep that for one. So maybe when we launch that one, I might come back on and tell you exactly what it is.
Absolutely, yeah, definitely. Brilliant. Oh, look, I'm very excited. I really am. And look, I always like to finish these things on last question. If today was your last day on Earth and you weren't doing this podcast, and obviously spending time with family, friends, what would you be doing?
What would I be doing? Gosh, I would probably, I was born in Ghana. And so I've got a lot of family in Ghana. So I would probably be in a corner of the world where only about 3,000 people live. And I would probably sit outside and the mango tree somewhere in my parents' garden. And I'll probably just pick a mango from the tree, give it a good wash and be eating it.
That sounds like paradise. Can I come if that's the plan?
You can.
Okay,
yeah.
Brilliant. Well, look, thank you so much for coming on. It's been amazing speaking to you.
Thank you for having me.
Incredibly inspirational, and so many exciting things going on with YQ. And I'm excited to see where you guys are at in 12 to 18 months.
So am I. Thank you very much.
And that's it for this week's episode. Thanks so much for listening, and I really hope you enjoyed it. Anything we talked about will be linked in the show notes. And if you haven't already, don't forget to subscribe wherever you listen to your podcasts. And we'll catch you on the next one.